everyone, Amelia Roberts here. Let's go ahead and talk about the AND function in Power BI using DAX. So you can see here on this slide, what the AND function does is it is going to check whether both arguments are true, and it's going to return true if both of the arguments are met. This is a logical function, so you are going to use this just like you would use any logical conditional type of function within Power BI. And what this AND function does and what it is kind of like in very plain language is it's almost like a really strict teacher who is only going to give you a gold star if you complete all your homework and behave well in class. If you don't meet both of those conditions, you're not going to get that gold star. It's going to be the same with that AND function. The syntax is pretty simple. You're going to put the word and then you are going to put your first logical condition, a comma, and then a second logical condition for your formula to connect with. It will then return if both logical 1 and logical 2 are true. It is going to put in the column the word. If it does not meet both of those conditions, it's going to put the word false in the column. So we can use this function in both a calculated column and a calculated measure. Here I have an example here called sunny Saturday. So I have combined this AND function with an if statement. And what this is pretty much saying that is if in one of our columns, which is our weather column, if it says the word sunny, and then in our other column, days of the week, it says Saturday. If it says both of those, it is going to put the word yes. If it does not say sunny or does not say Saturday in either of those columns, one or the other, then it is going to put the word nope, because both of our conditions are not met. So if one column says sunny, the other one says Monday, it's going to put nope. It has to meet both sunny and Saturday conditions. Let's head over to my laptop and see this in action within Power BI. All right, so here we are in Power BI. I have a really simple visual that we are going to add to. It's got the breakdown of some ages within my data. I am going to go ahead and head to my table view. Let's start out with a calculated column within here. So I'm going to go to my internet sales table here, and within my internet sales I do have a column called sales amount right here in the middle. This is going to have a variety of values for sales amounts, and what I want to do is I want to make a column that says if these two conditions are met, then I want you to say true, and if these two conditions are not met, then I want you to say false. And what I want is I am going to give it a range of numbers. I'm going to say if the value within the sales amount column is greater than 100 but less than 1,000, then I want you to put true. If it is not within that range, I need you to put false. So I'm going to go ahead and head up to new column up at the top. I'm going to make this DAX bar bigger. If you don't know how to do that, you hit Control and you can either scroll up on your mouse wheel or you can hit the plus sign. Let's just call this column, for all intents and purposes of this example, I'm just going to call it the AND example. And that's so we can kind of keep things straight within here. I am going to use my AND function. And I love IntelliSense here telling me I need a logical 1 and a logical 2. I am going to refer to my table first, which is my internet sales table, and then the sales amount column that is within there. So internet sales, and then I'm going to put sales amount, which if you rely on IntelliSense, I highly recommend you do because it's very helpful. You can always extend that bar out, and I'm going to go ahead and click this internet sales amount here. And I want to say for my first logical statement, I want to say greater than or equal to 100. So I'm going to use those symbols just like I learned in Algebra 1 in high school, and then I'm going to put the number 100. After that, you can tell IntelliSense is still up there. It is telling me after my first logical statement, I need to put a comma to move on to my second logical statement. IntelliSense is going to highlight what I am on to next, which is my second logical statement. I am going to once again refer to my internet sales and my sales amount. And this time I want to do, if it's less than or equal to 100, I'm going to use those once again. And then 1,000 is what my range is going to be. So remember, greater than 100, less than 1,000. That's my second logical statement. Since I am at the end of both of my logical statements for this AND function, I am going to close it off with a parenthesis. And then I am going to hit enter here. And now you can see there are a lot of falses here. I like to always check and make sure it's giving me true and false here. And it is. So this should match up with my sales amount column. I can see a lot of falses here. If I go ahead, I'm going to filter this down to only true, and we can see, because I can tell the sales amount for my false here is $4.99. If I select true and I look over at my sales amount, we've got 530 something, we've got 120. So those are definitely within the range that I put. So this is working appropriately. I'm going to turn off this filter now, and let's head over to our report view and let's see this AND function within a measure, because we can use it for both things. So I'm going to go to my report view, and I have made a measure table to house all my measures in. Right now, I only have just a regular total sales measure in here, which is just an aggregation, but I am going to combine the AND function with an aggregate to make something within here that I can add to this visual. So I'm going to go up to the top, hit new measure, and I am going to once again make that DAX bar much bigger. And I am going to also call this one the AND example measure so that I can remember what I am creating this for. I highly suggest use your best practices when naming your measures and your columns for whatever it is that you need to name them. For the examples we are doing, I am simply going to call this just an example. I am going to start off with my calculate function for filter context, and then I am going to use my sum. Now, what I want summed is the information, all of the values that are within that sales amount column. So I am going to reference that sales amount column. And then this is the end of my sum function. So I am going to put a parenthesis here. Notice I am now on to my calculate function. So that was my expression within my calculate function. I am going to hit the comma, and I'm going to add an and at this point, because now I'm giving it the filters. The filters I'm giving it are my and function. It's those two logical statements that I'm going to give it, the conditions I need met. So I'm going to use and now I am working within my AND function. I'm giving it logical 1, which, if you remember, is once again our internet sales. And it's going to be our sales amount column. And we did greater than or equal to 100 for our first one. I'm going to put a comma. And then once again, I'm on to logical 2, internet sales. This is very similar to what we just did in the column as well. And we are doing less than or equal to 1,000 for here. So I'm going to put that in. And then I'm closing off a parenthesis. That is the end of my AND function. But I still need to put another parenthesis to finish off that calculate function. I have no more red parentheses. Remember, if you see a red parenthesis, you probably need a closing parenthesis. I always tell myself once I finish a function, I need a parenthesis at the end of it. Functions can build within each other. So just keep an eye out for that. And then I'm going to hit enter. And I am now have my AND example measure. The only way to test out a measure is to throw it into a visual. I'm going to throw it into my age breakdown visual here. I am simply just going to drag and drop it within here. And now it is giving me my AND example within here. It's giving me that combination. So this is my sales amount that only is a sum of the values that are between 100 and 1000. To show you a little bit of a comparison, I am going to throw my total sales in here so you can see how this differs. So now total sales is all of my values. So even those ones that are less than 100 and greater than 1000, so outside of the range of the conditions that I gave for my and example, you can see the difference between the two here. So this is a great example of the and function, and I hope you learned something.